Think of the most confidently wrong person you've ever met. The one who was completely certain they understood something they clearly didn't. Loud, sure of themselves, immune to correction. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Psychology says this isn't a personality flaw. It's a measurable, predictable pattern in how the human brain evaluates its own competence, and almost everyone experiences it in at least one area of their life without realizing it. It's called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and once you understand exactly how it works, you'll start noticing it everywhere, including, if you're honest, in yourself. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger at Cornell University ran a now famous set of experiments. They tested participants on skills like grammar, logic, and humor, then asked each person to estimate how well they thought they'd perform compared to everyone else. The result was strikingly consistent. The participants who scored in the bottom quartile, the lowest performing 25%, dramatically overestimated their own ability. On average, they believed they had outperformed roughly 60% of other participants, when in reality, their actual scores placed them near the bottom of the group. Here's the key mechanism Dunning and Kruger identified. The same skills required to perform a task well are often the very skills required to accurately judge your own performance on that task. If you lack competence in a subject, you typically also lack the competence to recognize your own gaps, which means poor performers aren't just doing badly, they genuinely don't have the internal tools to notice that they're doing badly. The incompetence and the inability to detect that incompetence come from the exact same source. This produces the effect's signature pattern, often visualized as a curve. Confidence spikes early, right when someone has just enough knowledge to feel capable, but nowhere near enough to see the full scope of what they don't yet know. As real expertise develops, confidence often dips, because the more competent someone becomes, the more clearly they start to see the genuine complexity and the edges of their own knowledge. Only with substantial, sustained expertise does confidence climb again, this time grounded in an accurate, well-calibrated sense of ability. This creates two very different psychological experiences on two ends of the same competence spectrum, and understanding both is where this research becomes genuinely useful in your own life. Researchers and educators sometimes informally call the early confidence spike Mount Stupid, the point at which someone has learned just enough about a topic to feel confident, but not nearly enough to understand how much they're still missing. This is why people with a small amount of knowledge are often the loudest, most certain voices in a conversation, not because they're being intentionally dishonest, but because their brain genuinely cannot yet perceive the larger landscape of the subject. From where they're standing, they've seen what looks like the whole picture. They have no internal signal telling them otherwise because that signal itself requires a level of expertise they haven't yet reached. This matters far beyond trivia and quizzes. It shows up in workplaces, in online debates, in personal finance decisions and health advice, anywhere someone with surface-level exposure to a topic feels fully equipped to have a strong, confident opinion, unaware of the depth still sitting beneath what they've seen. Here's the part of the research that gets far less attention, but maybe even more important. Genuinely skilled and knowledgeable people frequently underestimate their own ability. Dunning and Kruger's data showed that top performers, people who scored in the highest percentile, tended to slightly underestimate how their performance compared to others. The reasoning is the mirror image of the low competence effect. Highly skilled people are so aware of the field's full complexity that they assume tasks which are genuinely difficult for most people must be equally easy for everyone else too. Their competence makes the work look deceptively simple from the inside, so they systematically discount just how rare their actual skill level is. This is a significant part of the psychological experience often labeled impostor syndrome, not a separate, unrelated phenomenon, but frequently a direct byproduct of this same competence calibration effect running in the opposite direction. The most capable people in a room are often privately convinced they're less capable than they actually are, precisely because true expertise comes with an accurate, sometimes uncomfortable view of everything that's still left to learn. Given that your own brain can't fully self-audit this effect from the inside, here are 3 practical, research-supported ways to get a more accurate read on your actual competence. First, treat strong, quick confidence as a signal to check, not a signal to trust. If you feel highly certain about something you learned recently or superficially, that's often exactly the Mount Stupid zone, the moment to actively seek out expert-level counter-arguments before speaking with full conviction. Second, seek feedback from people meaningfully more skilled than you, not from people at your own level. Peers at a similar competence level share your blind spot so they can't reliably catch what you're missing. Only people with deeper expertise can see the gaps that are, by definition, invisible from where you're currently standing. Third, if you're highly skilled and feel persistently unqualified, treat that feeling with healthy skepticism too. The discomfort of feeling not expert enough is, ironically, one of the more reliable markers that you actually understand the real difficulty of your field, which is usually a sign of competence, not its absence. Let's bring this together. The Dunning-Kruger Effect isn't a story about other people being overconfident and unaware. It's a built-in feature of how human cognition works, and it applies to everyone in different subjects at different times. The same lack of expertise that produces a wrong answer also removes the internal tool needed to recognize that the answer was wrong. Confidence on its own was never a reliable signal of competence. Sometimes it's the opposite. The practical takeaway isn't to distrust yourself constantly. It's to treat your own confidence as data to be checked, not a verdict to be trusted blindly. Especially in the early stages of learning something new, when the Mount Stupid effect is strongest. And if you're genuinely skilled at something and quietly convinced you're not good enough, the research suggests that discomfort may be a sign of real competence, not its absence, because a clear view of a field's full complexity is exactly what expertise looks like from the inside. So here's the question. Is there a subject in your life right now where you might be standing on top of Mount Stupid, confident but not yet aware of how much more there is to see? Tell me in the comments. This is Turn Wiser, and I'll see you in the next one. The Dunning-Kruger Effect, discovered in a 1999 Cornell study, shows that low performers often overestimate their ability, while high performers often underestimate theirs, because the skill needed to do something well is the same skill needed to judge your own performance accurately. Early confidence often peaks at Mount Stupid, right when you know just enough to feel capable but not enough to see what's missing. True experts, seeing a field's full complexity, often doubt themselves instead. The fix: treat quick confidence as a signal to check and seek feedback from people more skilled than you.